Hello and welcome to Sci-Fi Minecart, the show in which we dig up sci-fi shows that no longer get, or have never gotten the attention they deserve, and attempt to bring them back into the light. This episode... Menace from Outer Space, or the far less menacing title Bobby's Comet, is a film made up of 3 episodes from the American television serial Rocky Jones' Space Ranger. And that's right, long before the Power Rangers set controls for outer space now and became rangers higher than ever before, Rocky Jones was on the job, defeating evil and whatnot. Originally airing on the 6th of April 1954, there were supposedly 15 of these stories made, and this was the 3rd. I have unfortunately only seen 2 of them, but both were very enjoyable. The adventures follow Rocky Jones' Space Ranger, his sidekick Winky, that's right, you heard me correct, his name is Winky, a mad knowledgeable scientist, a young boy, and a stereotypical strong female character, as they embark on space adventures in the name of their United Space Earth government. If you're thinking this all sounds very familiar, that's because it is. It has a very similar storyline to the old Flash Gordon and the old Buck Rogers serials, as well as a slew of other old Flash Gordon and old Buck Rogers serials rip-offs. And the show unashamedly imitates these earlier serials. But there's nothing new to that. Sci-Fi has always borrowed from earlier installments of Sci-Fi, taken what they wanted, and improved on it as best they could. This is continued by Flash Gordon itself, which had a 1950s serial of its own that came out just after this one. And this Flash Gordon serial borrowed heavily from Rocky Jones' Space Ranger, so I think in the end it's all fair play. But what I'm trying to establish by showing how heavily all of these early sci-fi borrowed from each other is that due to their heavy influence on each other, all of these early sci-fi had a very distinct shared feel to them. Which means in the end one thing: if you like that distinct feel, and one of these shows does that distinct feel right, then you're going to really love that show. And Rocky Jones' Space Ranger in The Menace from Space definitely does that feel right. The storyline is beautifully convoluted, just like a lot of early sci-fi is, but to sum it up in its most brief state, a missile is shot at Earth from a planet that had previously been believed to be uninhabited, and so Rocky Jones has to go there to attempt to establish relations with the people so they stop shooting missiles at Earth, and double-crossing, evil empires, space criminals, and all that ensues. Usual space stuff. The show also makes sure to do its fair share of science babble.
The mass of the rocket itself is M.8, mass of payload M.5, and mass of necessary fuel load only M.2. That gives us a blast-off mass of M.15, which balances against equation of exhaust velocity, and we thus have an ideal mass ratio of 2.72.1.
Which actually might be pretty accurate scientifically. As I've said before, I'm not a scientist, so I wouldn't know. But one of the interesting things I found in this film is they actually went out of their way to make the alien planet not have the same gravity of Earth.
We're accelerating at 28 miles per second.
Gravitational pull's terrific on us.
It's twice that on Earth.
And even though it doesn't make a really big difference to the storyline, except for in one occasion, it's interesting that they made sure to actually mention it a few times of how it was affecting the characters, rather than having it as a throwaway, this is an alien planet and is slightly different from Earth. They actually made sure to give it a bit of an impact. As far as the costume department is concerned, any fan of Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon, or Star Trek the original series will feel straight at home. We have lots of people running around in spandex and lycra, unnecessary capes, of course the aliens look distinctly non-American, and the bad guys look like they're straight out of the Imperial Navy from Star Wars. Fans of old sci-fi will also be pleasantly surprised by the special effects in the film. The spaceships are cool, the explosions are great, and the ship-to-ship combat is always enjoyable. It would also be difficult to watch the film and not admire the sets, which for a 1954 serial are quite fantastically done. And as far as the ground combat goes, we have a round of fisticuffs so fantastic that it could have easily occurred on any unexplored planet in Star Trek or in the Boar's Nest. The film is a perfectly enjoyable 1950s sci-fi, and I do find it strange that Rocky Jones has faded into such obscurity, while other heroes like Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers are still so well known today. It's true that Rocky Jones didn't do anything new, but what he did do, he does quite enjoyably. So if you are a fan of old sci-fi, and you've watched your Flash Gordon and you've watched your Buck Rogers, give the obscure guy a chance. He might not be memorable to history, but he will give you an enjoyable sci-fi adventure. And, happily, if you are interested in checking out the film, it is in the public domain and does appear to be available in full on YouTube. Thanks for watching. I have been and still am Grim Grindle.